today's going to be an awesome day. If you have never learned how to make a pattern, or if you're interested on how I make my patterns, and if you have never lined a crochet bag before, this is the video for you, because today we are going to learn how to make this crochet purse. It is done with a granny stitch. It's a pretty basic bag, but it's beautiful. And we are going to go over how to line it and all the steps in between. We are going to build this pattern from the ground up together. So today is the day. Stick around and let's get right into it. So I went ahead and made this list of supplies for you guys because when I had originally recorded the supply list in the beginning, I had forgotten a bunch of stuff and had to add them as we went on when we made this pattern. So go ahead and save this list and grab what you need and let's get started. Okay, and since our purse is going to be done in the granny stitch, and that is multiples of 3, we have to figure out how big the base is going to be when we stop so that everything works out. So this is the crazy math I did, and I'm going to try to explain this to you. So say we start with a chain of 28, you always go back 2 stitches, right? So that would be 26. And this is the main chain I would do, right? So that's 24, 25 for this end stitch. 26 is on this end. And so that's just so that I could differentiate between the two ends where we're going to increase. So this is 24, 25, 26, but the extra 2 chains for when we go back because we're going to be working in double crochet. So I would be adding 4 to this end, adding 4 to this end. And as a result, the end chain amount, or the end double crochet for round 1 would be 56. So the next round I start with 56, but I'm going to increase once on this side, once on this side, and this side. So that would be adding 4 for a total of 60 for the next round. And every round then on, we would be doing the same thing, just increasing it by 4 until we get to 72, which can be divided by 3, which would work out for our granny stitch. I know this is kind of confusing, but this is the crazy math we have to do for crocheting. And I don't know if this is just my ADHD going kind of crazy the way I did it, but I believe this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of double crochet. So let's go ahead and get started. What I do when I'm writing a pattern, since I already have this, I have that figured out. I'm going to turn this over since this is the math page for that. And at the top of my page, I'm going to write down what the project is. So this is a G-stitch purse. I'm going to write down the size of hook that I'm using. That way I know. And then I'm going to start off, we're going to start off with a chain of 28. And this is how I do my patterns. So I'm going to put this back together and get started. Not sure what happened to the audio here, but all I'm doing right here is chaining that 28 and I sped it up for you guys. Okay, now that we're done with our 28, we are going to go ahead and starting from the 3rd chain from the hook, we're going to double crochet 24. Or I'm sorry, 25, because counting this one, right? So go ahead and do that. Let's do that and make sure it's right before we write it down. So we're going to crochet 25, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we just double crocheted 25, and I know this is right because I have the one at the end over here. And then I am going to do 3 double crochet. I'm sorry, 4. We're going to do 4 double crochets in this last one right here. And that'll help us turn onto the other side. So let's go ahead and do 4 double crochets into this last stitch. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and it's at this point that I'm going to pause. I'm going to bring over my pattern again. And then I'm going to write R1 right here for round 1. And I'm going to do DC for double crochet, 25, comma,
and then I'm going to start with a number first so that we know that it's all in the same stitch. So how I always do it is if the numbers come after the stitch, you know that you're going to do this that many times and that many stitches. But if the number comes first, 4DC, we know that this is in the same stitch. Now that's just how I do it. Go ahead and do it however you want. But we're going to do that and do another comma, and then we have to go back to get to the very last stitch before that. So let's go ahead and count how many that's going to be. Okay, so we're at the 4, right? So we're going to go ahead and go 1. And I'm actually going to be holding this string over as I go and crocheting around it. So go ahead and count all the way down. Okay, so as I suspected, there was 24 in the middle because of the one on each end, right? So after we got done with this 4, we went ahead and crocheted 24 double crochet across. And in this very last stitch right here where we did the first one, we're going to do 3 because the first one we did counts as 1. So go ahead and do 3 double crochet into the last. 1, 2, and 3, and I go ahead and do a backward slip stitch, and if you don't know what this is, you're going to learn right now because it makes it so much more seamless in the end. So go ahead and pull out your loop a little bit and let go of it. You're going to take your crochet project like this and you're going to turn it around. Okay, you're going to locate that first stitch, the top of the first stitch, which is right here, and I'm going to insert my hook in from the back of it just like that. And then I'm going to grab my loop and I'm going to pull it through just like that. And then when I turn, it is so seamless. It looks amazing together. All right, so let's go ahead and pull this out a little bit so that we don't lose it. Here we go. Okay, now we're going to write that down so that we don't forget what we just did. Okay, after our 4 double crochet, we double crocheted 24 times. Okay, and then we did 3 double crochet into the same stitch again. And that gave us a total of, was it 56? Yeah, 56. Okay, now we're going to go right here. We're going to go round 2. Okay, now we're going to start round 2. And in order to start round 2, we got to figure out where we're starting, okay? And so do you see these 4? Let me move this so that it's not a white background. There we go. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the 4.
I actually realized when I was editing that I didn't point out the right stitches, so here are the correct stitches. Take a look.
Stitches that were in the end right here, okay? And we are going to start off with a chain of 2 to get our length. So go ahead and chain 2. And in this first double crochet right here, we're going to start with an increase because that is the last double crochet that is in the end, and that is where we want our increases to go. So go ahead and do that. And if you want to write that down right now, you can, just so that you don't lose track. So do that. And for an increase, what I do is I do that just to let myself know that I'm increasing into that first stitch. I'm going to put a comma, and then we're going to count our stitches all the way across until we meet that first stitch of the very last one. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the 4 double crochets that were in the very last stitch, and we're going to put an increase into that very first one. So if you want to count across right now, you could, and you would know exactly how many you're going to do. So let's just go ahead and do that, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. So go ahead and do 24 double crochets and I will meet you right there. And we'll just make sure that it's right once we get there. Okay, so I went ahead and crocheted all the way across until I got to that very first double crochet that is in the last stitch right there, and that gave me a total of 24 all the way across. So we're going to go ahead and write that down. So we started with an increase, and then we're going to do DC 24 times, right? And then we're going to do another increase. So we're going to go ahead and write that down, and then find our hook. And we're going to do another increase into the next stitch. So go ahead and do 2 double crochets. Okay, and then we're going to count the stitches, right? We got 1, 2, and then in that very last one is the last double crochet we did in this last stitch. So that is going to be our increase. So we're going to do 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then we're going to do our increase into the last one right there. Increase. So go ahead and do that, and then we're going to write down what we just did. So we did our first increase, and then we did double crochet 2, and then we did another increase. Now we're going to do our stitches all the way across, which I'm going to guess is another 24. So you can go ahead. Oops, look at, I'm kind of tilting down here. Let's try to get back up. DC 24, and let's go ahead and do that and make sure. Okay, so doing it 24 double crochets all the way across brought me to the first double crochet that we did in the increase back there in the previous round. So we're going to go ahead and do another increase into that stitch right there. So do 1 increase, which is 2 double crochet in the same stitch. And then we're going to end the round with 2 double crochet because we started with the 1 with the increase right there. So go 1 and 2. And to do your backward slip stitch, let's go ahead and do that again. You're going to pull that out. You're going to turn this around. You're going to locate the top of the first double crochet right there and insert your hook from the back. And you're going to want to make sure that this string is not in front of it like that because that'll mess you all up. So make sure that this string is in the back. Pull your loop through just like that. And when you turn it, it just gives it a much better seam. I love it. Okay. So let's write down what we just did. After our 24 double crochet, we did an increase, right? And then we did double crochet 2 times, just like that. And then at the end of this round, because we added 4 more, we are at 60. And go ahead and count to be sure. But let's go ahead and write round 3 and see what we're starting with. Okay, so we're about to start round 3. And if you can see right here, we started off with our increase, right? But we're going to be doing our increases in the stitch that is closest to the row. I guess that's the easiest way to put that. So go ahead and start with a chain 2, and we're going to start with a single double crochet into the first one, and then we're going to increase into the second one, since that is the stitch that is closest to the row. So go ahead and do that, and we're going to write that down just so that we don't forget. And this is the most tedious part of making your own pattern. So we started off with double crocheting 1 time, and then we did an increase. Oops, I need a new pencil. And then we did an increase. And then we are going to double crochet however many times it takes for us to get back over to this increase, which we are going to be doing our next increase into the first stitch of this increase. So let's go ahead and crochet across and see how many it takes. Okay, so if you're like me, you're starting to notice something about this pattern right here. I just crocheted 24 across again. So I'm starting to notice a theme. And that's what makes it easy sometimes when you're making these patterns. So we know that if we're going to be doing the double crochet onto the first stitch that's closest to the row, then we know that there's always going to be 24 in between, and the increases are on the ends. So we're going to double crochet that 24 again, right? And then we're going to do another increase. So let's go ahead, oops, and do that. We did our 24, and now let's do our increase. And then let's count how many stitches are in between here and the next one. So here's the next increase, and we're going to be doing our next double crochet into that second stitch right there. So there are 1, 2, 3, and 4 stitches, and then the increase. So let's go ahead and do that. And then our increase. And then I'm going to take a wild guess that it's going to take 24 stitches to get back over here. So let's go ahead and write down our increase, our 4 double crochet, and then our increase because we didn't do that. So let's go ahead and do that. Uh, Double crochet 4 times and then an increase. And then we know that we're double crocheting. And I'm going to go ahead and guess that we're going to do 24 again because I'm guessing that this is kind of a theme throughout here. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so I went ahead and I have crocheted my 24, and we're going to do our increase right there. And then we're going to end the round with 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to turn it around, locate the top of our first double crochet, put on our hook, grab our loop, and pull it through. All right, there we go. Now let's go ahead and write that down before we forget what we did. We did our 24, and then we did our increase, and then we did a double crochet of 3 to finish out the round, and we increased by 4, so now we are at 64. Okay, so we're going to write down row 4. Wow, that was really crappy handwriting, but it's okay. All right, so let's keep up the theme. If you realize what we're doing, we're going to start off with a chain of 2, and now let's figure it out. Our increase is 1 crochet stitch away, right? But we're going to do it in the second stitch of that increase, so we're going to start off with a double crochet of 1 and 2. So double crochet 2, oops, 2, and then your increase. And then you guessed it, 24 double crochet. So let's go ahead and just write all that down. So we started off with a double crochet of 2. We did an increase. And then we're going to do double crochet of 24. And then you guessed it, an increase. So let's go ahead and do all that. And I will meet you when we get right there at the end of that next increase. Okay, I've done my 24 double crochet. I'm about to do my increase. There we go. And let's count how many stitches we have until the next increase, until the next, yeah, increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So go ahead and do 6 double crochet. There we go. And then we're going to do our increase. So 6 double crochet and then an increase. Let's go ahead and grab our notebook. So double crochet 6 times and then an increase, and then we're going to obviously double crochet again 24 times to get back across, and then another increase. So let's go ahead and do that, and I will meet you at that. Okay, so we've done our 24. We're going to do our increase. And then let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sounds about right because we started with 2. And so there's 6 on that side and 6 on this side between the increases. So go ahead and do 4 double crochets to finish out the round. And 4. We're going to do a backward slip stitch like normal. Locate that top of the first double crochet. Grab your loop and pull it. Oops. Pull it through. Just like that. Okay. And write down what you just did. There's my handy dandy pencil. I did my increase and then I did a double crochet 4 times to end out the round with 68. Okay, now none of these are divisible by 3 and we need one that is, so we're doing one more row. All right. Okay, so we're starting round 5 and we're going to start with our chain up of 2. And let's see, 1, 2, 3 double crochets before our increase. 2 and 3. And then we're going to do our increase. And then if you haven't guessed it or not, 24 double crochets all the way down. So let's go ahead and write that down. We did 1, 2, 3 double crochet 3 times and then increase and then double crochet 24 times. And then we're going to do an, oops, I don't know why I'm doing double crochet because I know we're going to do another increase. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that and I'll meet you right there. Okay, so I did my 24 double crochet and we're going to go ahead and do our increase. And let's count how many we need to get to our next increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 double crochet. Okay, go ahead and do your increase. And do your 24 crochet all the way across. Actually, wait, before we do that, let's go ahead and write this down. We did our increase. We did our double crochet of 8. Another increase, and we're going to do double crochet of 24 all the way across, and then another increase. And I'll meet you right there. Okay, so I did my 24 double crochet. I'm going to go ahead and do my increase. And we're going to finish out the round with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double crochet. Okay, go ahead and do your backwards slip stitch like normal. Okay, let's go ahead and write that down. Did our increase, and then we did a double crochet of 5, and we're finishing out the round with 72, which is divisible by 3. Don't ask me what it divides into, or else I'm gonna have to just pull out a calculator, okay? Okay, so since our purse already has this nice little shape right here, you can either do one round of double crochet or leave it. That is just a personal preference if you want to or not. Um, I'm debating on whether or not I want to. Let's debate together. I think there's a street sweeper in my cul-de-sac right now. I think I can hear it making circles. Let me pull this up so I don't lose it. Hmm. I think I'm good to just go ahead and start doing it my granny squares. So let me go ahead and start doing that. Pause 1 second. Okay, after further contemplation, I have decided to start the row with granny squares with white. That way I can end it with white because when we do the top of the border, I want it to be like a smooth transition. And if I do white onto the top of the granny squares, it might just look kind of funky. So we're gonna, and you'll see what I mean at the end. So we're gonna start off with our granny squares. So we're gonna write down what we're doing, okay? This was the length of the bottom of our thing. So we're gonna start up the length of the purse right now. So this is row 6. I don't know why I did that line. And we are going to start up with a chain of 3 to get the length of, usually I do like a double crochet with a chain of 2, but I have since discovered that if you do a chain of 3 when doing the granny stitch, it just makes it a lot easier. So we're going to go ahead and do our chain 3, and we're going to do 2 double crochets into this first double crochet, this first stitch right there. And that is going to count as our first granny stitch right there. Okay. Now we're going to skip 2, 1, 2, and we're going to do 3 double crochets into the next one. Oh, 1, 2, 3. I just want to write down what we're doing so we don't get lost. Okay, so there's our 2 first granny stitch clusters. How are we going to write this down? You can write down the chain 3 if you feel like you need to. Uh, Actually, so let's see. If this is all going to be in the same stitch, maybe we put one of those down and then double crochet 2 times, right? Like that. See, this is where like getting into patterns like gets kind of tricky with math and everything. And then into the next one, we're just going to do, let's see, skip 2, SK for skip, and then comma. And then in the third stitch, we're going to do 3 double crochet. And let's actually put this into those again, and then we're going to do a multiply, right? So that we know how many times we're going to do this. That way that makes it easier. So the first one is always going to be a chain up of 3 and then 2 double crochets into the same stitch. And then the next of the clusters are just going to have 3 double crochets. And we're going to be doing this however many times. So let's go ahead and count. Let's go ahead and do that all the way around. And then at the end, we will count starting from the second cluster because this one is different, right? So let's go ahead and repeat this cluster all the way around. So you're going to skip 2 double crochets, skip 2 stitches, and do 3 double crochets into that third stitch. And you're going to do this all the way around until we get to the end. I'm going to go ahead and do this part off camera and I will meet you at the end. Okay, so I did 23 of these clusters, including the second one. So we can either write, you do this and then do it 22 more times, or I'm just going to write 23 because this is like how many times you do this total, right? And so we ended on a chain of 2, which is perfect. Or I mean, not chain 2, but 2 more stitches, which is perfect for what we needed. And so I'm going to go ahead and I am going to do a regular slip stitch, not a backward slip stitch. We don't have to worry about that with this. into the first, or I'm sorry, let's say this again, into the top of the chain 3 that we did, which is the first, would be the first double crochet of that cluster right there. So go ahead and do your slip stitch like normal. Now, if you started this with a variegated yarn and you're not doing your base of white, you don't have to do a color change right here. I am going to do a color change, so this is how I do them. Let me go ahead and grab my yarn. I used this a while ago, so it's all wrapped around the end right here. So this is going to be fun for me to struggle with. Okay, so this is how I do my color changes. I'm going to go ahead and grab my yarn, leave a tail at the end. Actually, oh wait, there we go, got it out. Okay, so I do my color change right at the top right here. Just like this, and I'm just going to pull that through, and I'm going to pull the white super tight, and we're just going to pretend like it's not even there. And I'm going to do my chain 3, and I'm going to hold those over, right? Actually, since I want this cluster to be into this hole right here, I'm actually going to take that out. Let's redo that. One thing I've learned, so I'm going to do my color change like normal actually. And then I'm going to do a slip stitch around the whole thing right there. That way this chain right here, this what is going to be essentially the double crochet will look like it's around this loop and not just sitting on top. So I'm going to do my chain 3 like normal again, and I'm going to go straight into the next cluster and do a double crochet. So this is just going to have to sit here until I do my other double crochets in the end of this row. And if you want to, you can tie this in a knot right there. I'm just going to go ahead and move on. So I did my chain 3, and then I'm going to do 3 double crochets into the next space right there. And so it's going to look kind of funky. It's going to look like that at first, but that's okay. This is a problem for the end of the row. So I'm going to go ahead and do my granny stitch clusters all the way around. And we got to figure out what we're going to write down. So let's go ahead and pause and figure out what we're going to write down. So we are on the next row, and this is row 7. I did my chain 3. And then I'm just going to do a comma because this is not into the same stitch. And then we are going to do 3 double crochet in the space, right? Um, Double crochet cluster, right? Double crochet, well, we know that this is like a cluster. So let's see. See, this is the thing I have about writing out patterns. I don't know how all of these patterns technically go, so I'm just trying to wing it myself and figuring out, to write it down the first time so that when I come back and do this the second time, I'm not super confused and I understand what I wrote. So I did 3 double crochet. And if you want to, you can do like clustered that way you know what's going on right here, and then you can do times however many times we do it. So let's go ahead and do this around. And we did it once, we did it twice, and we're going to go ahead and count all the way until we reach this one right here, not this one, because this is going to have different instructions for the rest of them. So go ahead and do your clusters all the way around, and then we will count how many we did including this first one. Okay, so I will meet you at the end of this row. Remember, you're just doing 3 double crochets into each space, just like that. And I will meet you at the end of this row. Okay, so we've done this cluster 23 times because there's always going to be 23 clusters all the way around. So go ahead and write that 23. It's the same thing, right? And then we are going to end the round with 2 double crochets into this last one right here. But we are going to make sure that we're pulling these over, these strings right here, and we are going to crochet around them. So we're going to do 1 double crochet and 2 double crochet. And then we're going to go ahead and slip stitch into the top of that chain 3 right there. If I can get it in there. There we go. Okay. And now we're going to write that down. We did 2 double crochets, and then you can do slip stitch, and then that's the round for a total of 24 clusters. If you wanted to write that down, you totally could. Now we know that row 8 through however many you want to do is going to be a repeat row 7. Okay, so that's pretty much how you're going to work that up. So we're just going to repeat this entire row to work up the length. So row 8 through however many you're going to do is going to be that. So let's go ahead and work up the length of it. So we're going to start the same way. So we're going to start up with our 1, 2, 3. Now, because I did a color change is the only reason why I had started this row out with that slip stitch. But if you didn't do the color change, obviously you didn't have to do that. And I didn't do my color change here. So I'm just going to chain up 3 and do 2 double crochets into the same one. And so actually, we're not repeating row 7. See, look at that. This is how we develop patterns. Oh my gosh. Okay. Whoa. Earthquake. Okay. So let's see. Chain 3. Da, 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 da. So, okay. So we're repeating row 6 is what we're doing. And then row 7 is going to be probably like, or the next row will be like that. Let me guess, right? Let's see. We chained up, went into that, and then the next one is going to end with that cluster, right? Like that, right? With that double crochet cluster into the slip stitch. And then the next one will be like this because we'll be ending on like this side of the thing, right? Oh my gosh, I'm confused. Let's just finish this row and then I will know what I'm doing. Okay, so as of right now, we're starting out the same way that row 6 started out. So let's just do this together and we're gonna figure this out, okay? Because I get confused sometimes and oh my gosh. So we're just gonna repeat the clusters all the way around. And if I am right, we are just gonna repeat row 6 and row 7. So I'm gonna have to erase this and fix that. Let me just go ahead and do that right now because I think I got ahead of myself. Let me erase all of this. But right now we know that we're working on row 8 and we want to stay centered on that. But right now I'm repeating row 6. So, and I think that next row is going to be a repeat of row 7. So let's just go ahead and work this out. And this is pretty much how working out patterns is. You don't know what you're doing until you get it done and you're like, oh wait, I need to change this or I was wrong. And so you have to go back and fix things. And so it'll be fine. We're going to work it out. It's going to be fine. I'm going to meet you at the end of this row. I'm going to go ahead and finish this row off camera. Okay, so I finished this round and then I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch into the top of that chain 3. And so far I am seeing that yes, we are going to be repeating rows 6 and 7. So I'm going to go ahead and chain up 3, 2, 3, and then I'm going to start with my 2 double crochet into the next or I'm sorry, my 3 double crochet into the next cluster right there. Just to confirm. Yep, right there. Okay, so this is what we're going to be doing. So for the rest of it, right? We're just going to say repeat row 6 and 7 um, times however many we're going to do. So now that we have established that we are repeating rows 6 and 7, I feel like I should mark one of these rows so that am aware at the end of how many times I repeated. So this was row 6 and this was row 7. This is the original 6 and 7. So I feel like I should probably mark the first time I repeated it. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a stitch marker. And obviously I forgot to say that we needed stitch markers because I didn't anticipate this. So I am very sorry for that oversight. Let me go grab one. I hope I did not miss anything else. Let's see, we started right here. So this is the cluster. It was the first repeat. And so, yeah, now you know, you're just going to go ahead and repeat row 6 and row 7 until you get the length of the purse that you were happy with. And I'm going to go ahead and do this off camera and I will let you know how many repeats I end up with at the end. Okay, so I am finished with the length of the purse that I wanted. I just kind of wanted a simple little purse, not just a huge bag. So let's see how many times I have repeated row 6 and 7. So 6 and 7, right? So let's see. We're going to count diagonal like this to the top. 6, 7, 1, 6, 7, 2, 6, 7, 3, 6, 7, 4. Now, if you have teenagers, you were hearing this as 6, 7. I have a 12-year-old right now and she's going to love that. Okay, so I did that 4 times. Oh my gosh. So let's see. So that was row 6, right? So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So the next row is going to be row 15. Make that a little bit like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do for this next row, and this is also the reason why I switched to white, because I'm going to be doing one row of double crochet. So I'm going to chain up twice. And for when I do rows of double crochet, this never counts as a double crochet. That's just like the basic rows of double crochet. That's just me. Um, I have found that it's less gappy when I don't count that. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do another or double crochet right there. Oops, into that first one. And I'm just going to double crochet around, doing it one into the top of every stitch around. There we go. Just like that. Every stitch around to the top. And I will meet you at the end of this row because this is just basically the top of our bag and we need just one row. So go ahead and do a row of double crochet and I will meet you at the end of this round. Okay, so I have double crocheted all the way around, and since we started with 72, there are 72 stitches all the way around that. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down. Row 15, we double crocheted times 72. Or you can write double crochet around, whatever, either way. Row 16, I'm actually going to decrease it a little bit just because I don't like it when the purses are so gappy up at the top because then I just feel like it's easier for it to sit open like that. So I just want to cinch it up just a tiny bit up at the top. And so 72 is also divided by 6. So we are going to decrease this. I don't know how to explain it. Let's see. Go ahead and do your back slit, blah, 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 blah. Your backwards slip stitch like normal. Back to that. Go ahead and chain up 2. And since it's divided by 6, what we're going to do is we're going to decrease every fourth stitch because 4 plus 2 equals 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then decrease the next 2 stitches. And then that is going to decrease it, I believe, 12 times around for a total of 60 stitches when we are done. And we are going to count that when we're done just to be sure. But go ahead and do a 4 double crochets into the first 4 stitches, just like that. And then let's do a decrease. Double crochet decrease is done by yarning over, going into the first loop of the first stitch, or the front loop of the next stitch, pulling your yarn through both of those. Then you have 3 loops. Gonna yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2, just like that. And we're gonna repeat that all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then do your double crochet decrease, yarn over, go through the front loop only of the next 2 stitches, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. So go ahead and do this all the way around and count them up. And when you do, you should have 60. And I will meet you at the end of this round. Okay, so I indeed have 60 crochet across the top of it. I have done my backward slip stitch. I've chained one, and now I'm going to snip this and pull it through. Pull that nice and tight. The base of the purse is now done. We are now going to move on to the handle of the purse, and we're going to figure this out together. And actually, I need to make sure that I wrote that down, and I didn't. So let's fix that. Row 16, we double crocheted 4 times, and then we did a decrease, and we did this times, what was it, 12? Yeah, it was times 12 because we subtracted 12, and now we're at 60. Okay. And that is the pattern for the purse. So now you guys can, like, if you were writing this down with me, you have the basic purse pattern, and you can do a variation of handles any way you want. But this is the purse pattern to make this. Okay, moving on. Okay, so if you have an idea for the handles that you want to do, you can go ahead and skip forward. I will go ahead and put a timestamp somewhere right here where it skips to where I'm done with the handles, and we can just move forward with the purse. But if you don't have an idea for what you want to do, I do have an idea. And it might seem a little complicated, but we're going to get through it together. It's actually not even that complicated. I don't know why I said complicated, just because I only used 2 skeins of yarn for this, but I want my handle to be kind of thick. So I'm going to be pulling from both the center and the outside so that I have 2 of each. And that is what I meant by complicated. So you're going to go ahead, if I can find my white, you're going to go ahead and make sure that you have them all at the same length. And you're going to be working with 2 from the white and 2 from the variegated. So if you ended up using just a variegated yarn, and maybe add some white or add some black or something, or if you had your own idea for the handles, like I said, just disregard this whole thing. But I want my handles to be a little bit thicker. So let me locate the ends of both of these. Oh, there's the purple. And since they're variegated and they're different colors at the moment, looks like gonna have a purple and blue handle. Okay, so pretty much those are the same length. I'm not gonna worry about too much about it. I am gonna try to get these in a way to where I can pull them both out of the same area though, so give me just a second. Okay. Okay, so this is what I'm working with right now. And I'm going to still use the same hook size. Let's see, maybe I might move up a size. Let's see how this works. No, this will still work. This will still work fine. Okay, so I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail uh, to decorate or do whatever I want to do with it later. And I'm going to grab the sides of my purse, right? And so if you wanted to, you could do it in this first one since we pretty much ended on the side right here. And then you would do it in stitch 30 on this side. So because there's 60 stitches, we could do that. But I am going to go ahead and in this first, I'm not going to go through the top of the stitch right there. I'm actually going to go through around the whole thing because I want it to be a little bit more secure. And then I'm going to do a slip stitch with all of these yarns right here, just like that. Okay. And then let's just start making a chain and see how far we go. I do have a measuring tape, which I didn't mention in the beginning, because I didn't realize I was going to need it. But let's go ahead and do a chain. And in reality, I probably could have used a bigger hook size. So if that's what you feel like doing, go ahead and do that. But I am making these stitches pretty tight. And we're just going to work up the length of the strap that we want. I'm going to decide in a little bit whether or not I am going to be doing a single crochet or just leaving the chain as it is. Usually I'm using more than just 4 strands for the strap, so I feel like it's a little bit stronger, but honestly, this feels pretty strong. Now, do keep in mind when you are making this strap that it is going to stretch. When you put stuff into the purse and just, in general, it stretches. So you want to take that into account. So you're going to give it a stretch, and just take that into account when you're making it. Because I did make my daughter, I posted on my page not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, this purse that I made my daughter. And as soon as she started putting stuff inside of her purse, I mean, the strap I made was completely stretching, but I had done a single crochet back and forth, back and forth, back and forth to make like a strap that was like this thick, and so I went all the way around, and it ended up stretching a lot. So I'm trying to learn how to make better straps, and so I am just making sure that I grab all of these strings as I go through, just being really conscious. And like I said, it might have been smarter to go up a hook size, maybe 2. The next one I have out of these hooks is a 7 millimeter. So I would have been going up 5, 6, 1.5 sizes. And I feel like that doesn't really make sense. So, oopsie, but probably wouldn't be running into that issue. So I'm going to keep going here. And then I'm gonna measure it and see how far. And this is really a personal preference, for however long you want the handle to be. If you wanted one that hung down a little bit further, maybe you wanted one that went across your body or something like that, then you would make this a little bit longer. But if you wanted like a clutch bag, then you would make it pretty short. So there's really no wrong way to do this part. Okay, I'm gonna pull this out a little bit, and we're gonna give this a measure. Let me kind of go over and see how I'm looking right here. Nice. Actually, that's not too bad. I'm gonna put it on my body real quick and kind of see how far it hangs down. I think I want it a little bit longer, but let's go ahead and measure this and see how long this is, just so that I have an idea. We're looking at an upside down measuring tape, but it says 19 inches. Without stretching it, I'm at 19 inches. And I'm gonna go a little bit longer. I'm not gonna worry about rolling that all up at the moment. I'm just gonna unroll it in a second anyways. So just gonna keep going a little bit. I do like that the color changed halfway through here. That's pretty nice. I'm happy with that. I debated on grabbing a third strand that matched one of the colors of here to just add it, like maybe a green. And I would have done that, honest to God, but I just didn't have a green that matched. I do need more greens. That's on my list right now of colors I need to get. It's just not one of the fun colors, it's like buying black or white. So I procrastinate until the last moment when I'm just like, oh, I really, really need it. I can't do anything that I need to do unless I have it. And then I go buy it. But, I like buying the fun, pretty colors. If you know me, I love rainbow. I love black and rainbow, white and rainbow. I just love colorful, bright, shiny things. Okay. If you're having as much difficulty as I am pulling these through, then we feel each other right now. We feel each other's pain. Okay, let's see. It's hard to get all of this on camera. It's actually not bad. I'm gonna hold it up to my body again and kind of get a feel for it. I feel like that's really the best way to do that, to get a good feel for it, for how, how this would fit somebody. And obviously everybody's different. If you're making this to sell, maybe there's like a standard purse strap length that you feel would be better than others. Um, I think I'm almost happy with it. I think I want it just a little bit longer. Although, you know what? Maybe I'm not taking into consideration the stretch. So, if I take into consideration the stretch that will happen, um yeah, no, I still want it a little bit longer. So, let's just keep going a little bit, making sure I grab all of those strings. This is probably the most tedious part of the purse and probably the most boring part of the video, but hopefully you guys are enjoying my commentary as we make this together because I have no idea what to say and I'm just popping off with whatever pops into my head. But we have a lot of fun on this page. So if this is your first time joining me for a tutorial, they are not always as scattered like this. This is me just coming up with a pattern off the top of my head for you guys because my viewers wanted to see what goes into making a pattern. And so this is how I do it basically. And let's go ahead and give this another measure because I think this is the length that I want. Let me hold it up against my body again. I know it's off a camera, but this is going to be good. I'm going to show it at the end and you will see what it looks like up on my body. But okay, let's go ahead and measure this because I'm going to call this good. And part of me measuring this will be off camera because obviously the shot is just not that long. So let me put this the right way this time and you guys will be able to see the numbers. Okay, let me get this all the way to the end. Okay, now I'm up to about 29 inches. I could probably stretch it a little bit and call it 30. So, maybe we'll just do that. I just straightened it out a little bit and it's actually 30 inches. What do you know? Okay, so a 30-inch strap seems pretty good to me because it'll hang down a little less than 15 on either side, taking into account the shoulder. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to keep this as straight as I can on this side. And honestly, I think I slip stitched onto the wrong direction when I started this. So now the tassels are on the inside. That's hilarious. Well, hopefully you guys slip stitched the correct way. I believe if I pull that through, we're going to have an issue. So I'm going to end up having to sew these on onto the outside. That is hilarious that I did that. Okay. Hopefully you guys didn't do that. Should have paid attention to that in the beginning. Okay, what I'm doing now is I'm just moving this along so that the braided look is on top so that I keep it straight for when I slip stitch into the other side. So here we go. Insert my hook. And I'm keeping this straight. So for me, the braid is facing out on both sides. And I'm going to make sure that we're going flat across onto this other side right here. Pull it into view. And once again, I'm going to go around the entire stitch. So I'm going to insert my hook, go through just like that, and then do the slip stitch just like that. So I guess I don't know what you would call that, two slip stitches. I pulled it through and then I did the extra slip stitch just to secure it. There we go. And what do you know? The tassels are on the outside this time. Okay. How are we going to fix this? I am going to fix this. Let me get my darning needle. And the good thing about these really thick darning needles is that I can get all 6 strands through it. Watch me try to do it on camera and it not work. That would be hilarious. Regardless of whether or not it works right off the bat, I know that I can get all 6 in. Oh, look at that. I did it. Skills. Okay. I don't want to go too far down because they are not all the same lengths, no matter how much I did try. Let's see. I think I'm going to just go through this stitch right here I'm just gonna pull this out through here if I can. There we go. Pull that nice and tight, and I'm gonna call that good. Okay, so there we go. And what I'm gonna do now, move this off of view. I'm gonna grab my scissors and I'm gonna make sure that these tassels are all the same length. So I folded my purse directly in half, just like that. And I'm gonna give this a little pull so they're the same, and I'm gonna cut it right about there. That way, these are hanging down kind of cute, but not too far. And one option that you guys could do, I'm going to pull aside another purse and show you guys what I did to it, just to show you guys an option of what you could do to these. Let me grab another bag. I just worked on this last night. I will set this aside. I don't know if you just heard my dog groaning, but do you see what I did with the ends of these? And I made them all uh, fuzzy, whatever. I actually did this with a wire brush, just like this. And you want to make sure that you're going to use a surface that is not going to be damaged, or you don't mind that gets damaged. Honestly, cement or brick works just as perfect as anything else, because you don't have to worry about it, and it's rough. So if you want to just take your bag outside, you could take, what you're going to do is you're going to take the tassels, and honestly, you'd probably cut them in half, about so they're about, what is that, like 2 inches, something like that, and then you're gonna scratch, oops, I don't really wanna do it with these, but you're gonna scratch these, and you're gonna just brush them out, and then until they end up looking like this. And if you actually want a tutorial on how to do that, I have my emotional support monster video, which I will tag. So definitely go keep an eye up. It should just be right up here when I tag it for the mohawk, and it will show you. You can just jam over there real quick and learn how to make yarn to look like this. Um, and yeah, that is in my emotional support monster video. And that's also an awesome thing to learn, because this is a great look. I do love this, and, I'm not sure if I'm gonna end up doing that or not, so I think that's something I will decide at the very end, and that's one thing that I love about making these bags, is that you can really just make them different and personalize them any way you want to. There's no, like, wrong way to do it. And so now that I have this part done, though, I am going to work on the closure, because I do want a closure of this purse. And one part of it is going to be a loop. So in the back of this purse right here, right in the middle, I am going to be doing a slip stitch. I'm going to do this afterwards, or this will be done second. First, we're going to do the closure part. But we're going to do a slip stitch and then a loop of probably 10, a chain of 10, I mean, and then do the slip stitch into the stitch right next to it. But for right now, we are actually going to be working on the bead. I was going to put a button, but I have a better, different idea. And it did mention I had beads. So let's do that. Okay, so it's at this time that we're going to start working with those beads. So I went and grabbed that smaller needle that I have right here. I'm going to set that aside. And I am going to be using some white embroidery thread for this. This is always a little complicated for me. And of course, it's going to be because I'm doing it on camera, because that's just how life goes. Okay, I'm going to be pulling some out, and I'm going to be doubling it up. So I want a good amount, not too much, but a good amount. Okay, go ahead and thread your needle. And I'm going to make sure that this is directly in the middle, because I'm going to be working, like I said, doubling up. So making sure the ends are at the same length right here. And I'm not going to be tying a knot in this just yet. I'm just going to be keeping track of it. And if you have a better way of doing this, go ahead and do it your own way. But this is what I've decided to do instead of a button. I know at the beginning I said that we were going to need a button, but I also mentioned beads. So changed my mind and we are going to be doing just beads. And these are the beads that I have pulled out for this. I'm just going to be doing an assortment. And this will be the middle one. These are my ends, and I'm going to be working from the bottom up. So this will be the first one. I'm going to go through it like this. And then I'm going to leave some length on the end of it, and I'm just going to leave it right there for now. And I'm just going to figure out how I'm going to do this pattern. I think maybe I will do white next. And then I have, mm, actually, I think I'm going to do one of these little green ones. I have these little green ones. I'm going to do that one. And then I have an idea for the silver ones. So I'm going to do this silver ball right here, just like that. And then this one is pretty unique. It has these frames that you put around it that kind of grab onto it and make it look a lot better. Like that. Isn't that pretty? So I'm going to do that. And then this one goes on top like that. And then I'm just going to repeat the pattern back down. So we're going to go silver, and then so silver and then green. Oops. Green, white, and purple. All right. So this is what we're looking like. I think that's beautiful. Oh my gosh, perfect. This is absolutely perfect. Okay. Move this out of the way. And you're going to find your center of the bag in the front. If you want to count, you can. It's probably going to be around the 15th stitch. Let's go ahead and count just for funsies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Hmm, maybe I didn't start all the way around. Let's see. Does that look like the middle stitch to you? I feel like one over would be better. Ooh, maybe not. Let's see. How do we feel about that? See, that's the thing about 30 because it's technically in between. So just got to pick one. So I'm just going to pick one. And I'm going to go around the entire stitch right here, around the entire thing, just like that. And then to make sure that I have enough to go all the way back down through, I'm going to go back down through the beads. And this is going to lock them in place right here. So we're just going to go work our way back down, just like this. Perfect. This one can be a little complicated, but I'm getting it. Oh, I gotta pull that string nice and tight because we want it nice and tight up against there. Okay. Keep going through. Just be careful that these don't get, come off the bottom of it. We're just watching what we're doing and we're being careful. Go through. Keep going. And just avoiding little knots like that happen. You're just going to be aware of the string as you're going down. There we go. Oh, that one has a scratch on it. Too late now. Okay. All right. Oh my gosh, that is so pretty. It's a little heavy, huh? But it's going to be fine because when the loop is on it, it's all going to attach to it and it's going to be beautiful. And so I am just going to probably cut this now off of the string. Don't lose my needle. And we are going to, I'm going to tie a knot with the 2 strings first of all right here. Just so that we're nice and cinched up as tight as I know that we're going to be. Do a couple knots like that. But obviously that can go right through that. So I'm going to be doing a couple of big knots right here at the end, getting as close as I can to this bead. There we go. We can still go through. We're going to do it again. And again, you could have probably gone around this bead one more time and then tied it like that. I do know that's another good way to cinch it. But if I get this knot down here big enough, it won't go over it. There we go. Do another one. I think this is like my third knot. I'm not sure. Keeping it really nice and tight. Sorry if I went off camera right there. Just trying to pull this nice and tight right up against there. I think we're good. Yeah, that's not getting through there. Okay. Might do one more just for good measure because I'm paranoid and this is a bag that I will be selling. So want to make sure that these are nice and tight. There we go. Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna give this a little snip. That's a cute little tassel hanging down. All right, now I'm gonna grab my white yarn to make the loop that is going to go around that. Grab this. I'm gonna grab my hook again, and we're going directly behind this into the top of these stitches right here, directly behind it. So make sure you're lining everything up perfectly. Okay, so I'm gonna go right here and I'm gonna do a slip stitch. Perfect. Now I'm gonna probably chain 10. Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and slip stitch into the stitch right next to it, and I'm gonna test this out and see how I like this. So this was a chain of 10, and the idea here is to just put this through, and this is how it closes. Okay, I think that that's perfect. It gives it a little bit of wiggle room so that in case, you have a bunch of stuff in there. Yeah, I'm gonna call that good. I think I just dropped my scissors. Let me pick those up. Okay, so I'm going to snip this off. Let me pull this back through. Oh my gosh, I love it. This is the only purse I've made like this. I love that we did this together. Okay, so I did my slip stitch. I'm just going to do my chain 1 to pull this through. And I'm going to sew in my ends. I have a couple ends to sew in. You should know how to do that by now, so I'm not going to do that on camera. I do have, where is it? Oh, see, there we go. So I'm going to sew in these two right here. I'm also going to be turning this entire purse inside out, and I'm going to be sewing in all my ends before we do the lining. So I will go ahead and do that off camera. You feel free to do it as well. Weave in all your ends, as best as you can and sew them up. And when we meet back up, we are going to start on the lining. Okay, so now is the time that we're going to move on to making the lining for our purse. And obviously, I feel like there are some more things that I should have mentioned that we were going to need. So I am probably going to go back and make a new list. Just to like put it on the screen in the beginning for you guys because I'm not sure if I mentioned the fact that we're going to need these little pins like you're going to need for sewing, as well as actual fabric scissors. These are crucial so that you don't mess up your fabric. Oh, and a Sharpie for this next part. So I have taken a length of fabric, as you can see. It is just a little bit bigger on every side of the purse. Like I said, you can get away with about a yard of it. I have it folded in half inside out. So it's folded in half down here because this is the bottom of the purse. And I leave a little bit of a length because, we did make the purse about this wide. So I do leave a little bit of an extra length on the bottom. It ends about right here. And then I'm going to go about this far around the purse just so that I have an extra width for sewing. like the hem and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and go around it about an inch, inch and a half, and kind of just make this line right here that goes along with the shape of the purse. And so I'm going to do this on either side. But since I am going to be, I'm trying to make sure that I'm still in view. I'm going to be sewing it in the top of the second row because this is where we did the bead. So in these stitches right here, right? So I'm going to make sure that I am marking it right where that is, or a little bit above it, because we're going to have to fold it down for when we make the hem. So honestly, just going up to the top of the purse is actually fine. And so I'm going to take my purse away now. And I am going to grab something flat so that I know that it's straight. I think I have an extra clipboard right here. I do indeed. I'm going to stand up for this part. Actually, I'm going to also move it a little bit closer so that I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to just make sure that I am drawing this straight across so that when I cut it, where's my marker? There it is. I'm cutting straight across. So I'm just going to go ahead and just do this line right there, just like this. Doesn't have to be perfect. That's what we're cutting. So let me go ahead and put this away now. Okay, now that I have that all drawn, before we start cutting, I am going to pin it because I do not want the top layer and the bottom layer to move. They are going to need to stay in the same exact places for when we sew it. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my pins and I am going to pin it down about an inch from where the line is, because that's still a little bit further out from where our purse was, but I want to make sure that we are keeping the top layer and the bottom layer together. So I'm going to go ahead and pin this all the way around. Sorry for my big old arm in the way. Trying to pay attention to what I'm doing. Okay, here we go. I'm going to pin this all the way around. Just be careful when you're using these. You don't want to poke yourself, but I feel like, obviously we've probably all have done it. I'm going to go ahead and stick a couple more pins up top right here just so that I don't mess it up when I go to sew or cut. Okay, should be good. All right, now for the cutting. I'm going to go ahead and cut around this entire piece of cloth all along that line. I'm really trying to take care that I am getting both cloths, the top layer and the bottom layer, so that they are coming across like that and it's not all choppy. So definitely take your time when you do this. Although, like I said, this is going to be, we're going to sew in and make the seam, so it's not like the edges are going to be seen anyways. So it does not have to be perfect. But, do take your time, don't rush it. Now, if you have a sewing machine, this next part is going to be a breeze. It's going to be super easy to do. I do have a sewing machine, but I just don't have it set up yet. And I have to rethread it, and that's just a whole thing. And I know that once I do it, I'm going to feel silly for not doing it, but I'm procrastinating. So as of now, I'm doing all of this by hand. So we're going to go ahead and grab our sewing needle that we were using before with the embroidery thread. That little one right there. Perfect. And I'm going to grab my embroidery thread again. Let's not lose that. And I am again using white. And I am taking out enough because I'm going to work doubles again. I don't like using just the one string, so I'm going to have my needle up here and I'm going to make sure that it's covering the side of this because we're just going to go up one of the sides right now. So if your needle was in the middle, You're gonna go like this, the length, okay? And this is definitely enough for either side. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a snip, okay? And we're gonna thread our needle and then we're just gonna go ahead and sew up the side. And I will do a couple stitches with you on camera. I'm not gonna do the whole thing on camera, but I will do a few stitches with you so you can kind of get the gist of what I'm gonna do. Oh my goodness, let's get this thing in here. There we go, okay. So I'm just gonna go like that to where I make sure that the ends are the same length. And I don't need a lot of length on this. When we do line it, when we line the bag, like when we attach the liner to the bag, you are going to add a little bit of a tail. And I do put a couple of knots in here just to make sure that it's nice and big and it's not going to go through the cloth. But when we do put the bag or the lining onto the bag, you are going to make sure that you have a little bit of the length so that we can sew in this end so that it's not seen. And I will show you exactly what I mean when we get there. But for now, we are just going to be sewing up the side of this. So this is the bottom, this is the top, and these are the sides. So I'm going to turn it and I'm going to be starting at the end that is sewn right here. I'm going to adjust my camera so you guys can see a little bit more what I'm doing. Here we go. Now that the cutting part is over. Okay, so I'm going to go in, I'm going to start at the folded end like this, and I'm going to start as close to the bottom as I can get, close to the end, right? About a ½ inch in, about halfway between the end and your pin is about the length that we want. I'm going to pull this all the way through, and I'm just going to go back and forth, doing even stitches as I go, all the way up to the top. But you're going to leave a little bit of length at the top for sewing in the top of it to the purse. So you're probably going to stop about an inch from the top, maybe, maybe about an inch or so. And make sure that you are taking care not to get them all tangled up into the pins as you go, because that can make things a little bit difficult. So as you're sewing down the length of it, make sure you're pulling out those pins as you go. And you're going to do nice even stitches all the way across. You could even do smaller stitches if you wanted to. I was trying to do smaller ones and they ended up huge like this, but it is okay. It's going to be all sewed up at the end. It's going to look good. And besides, this part won't be seen at all, so don't even worry about how it looks. But this is good practice for when we get to the lining, sewing it into the purse, because that is when you're going to want these all nice and even and straight because it will be seen. And you could do it with a sewing machine too, I guess. I have never sewed cloth onto yarn with a sewing machine, but I imagine um, it might be a little difficult just because I know that that needle gets stuck sometimes. So go ahead and keep sewing all the way to the end, and I will meet you at the end right here. We are going to stop probably right around here, like I said, about an inch, because we want to leave it room to go down so that when we sew it into the purse, it's a nice even edge like this, and it's all nice and hemmed. So I will meet you right here. Okay, so I'm putting in my last stitch right now. Like I said, you're going to leave a little bit of length at the top. But what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to go around a couple times as close as I can get to that stitch, just to make this ending stitch a little bit more stronger and secure. Because I have noticed that once I tie that off, if I don't go around twice, that splits sometimes. Not like it splits a lot, but it's not able to go any further than that, and it just looks better when it's gone through more than once. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this a snip. I don't know where my little snippers are, so I'll use my big ones. And I'm gonna go ahead and tie a knot in the string, and you're gonna do the same thing to the other side. And then when we come back, we are going to sew it onto the bag. So go ahead and tie your knot like this, like I'm doing. I probably did like 3 or 4. Give it a snip. Those are gone. And then we're gonna pull down the bag and do this side. And once you're done with that, you can pull out the pins in the top. You could probably pull those out now. I just didn't want the bag to get all wonky while you were working in it. So go ahead and sew in the other side, and I will meet you when it's time to turn this inside out and sew it onto the bag. So we're making progress. Okay, so it's time to sew this onto the bag. And I have already threaded my needle for this, and I have enough thread here to go across this bag twice. See me pulling it back across twice with an extra. When I pull this actually out more like that, I have an extra probably about 10 inches of both strings on the ends of both strings, and that is for sewing them in on the other end when we're all done. So what we're going to do now is turn this right side out now that we have it all nice and sewed. Okay, very nice. We are going to take our bag that is still inside out. I haven't turned it right back out yet. We tuck everything onto the inside, and we are going to tuck the bag into this opening that we have made. Making sure the ends meet up with the ends, like the sides, you know. And here's our bag. Okay. Now what we're going to do, you're going to make sure you still have your uh, sewing pins, and we're going to start folding this edge over all the way across, just like that. And we're going to have it meet up. You're going to tuck that bag down in there. Okay, just like that. We're going to start grabbing our pins and we're going to pin it. Okay, I'm going to start at the edge over here, making sure everything is still folded. And we are going to be sewing in to this row, to the top of the second row right there. So I'm going to pin it just below that, making sure that I'm going through both layers of the cloth and the purse. Okay, you're going to go through all the way and then come back through everything. Just like that. We're pinning the cloth to the bag right now. We're just going to pin this front side because obviously we're only sewing in one side at a time. And so you're going to pull this about halfway to the top of the other stitch, right? Because we're going to be sewing about maybe a quarter to a half inch down. So we're going to pull this about halfway up the top stitch right there. Keeping this nice and folded, and we're going down right there, making sure we're going through everything. We're going to pin all the way across, keeping this nice and straight as we do it. One more, I think, should be good. Grab another pin. There we go. Okay. Now you're going to grab your string. You're going to come in from the back side because we are going to be hiding the ends of the string into the yarn. So we don't want any ends showing where we sewed it in. So right here at the edge, and this is where you're going to be making sure that you're going in to the right row. Okay, so without trying to be too complicated about it, go in at the top of the second row, right in the end. So right below the handle. And I'm coming out right here, right about where I wanted to. And you got to be careful with this string. Keep it from getting tangled as you do this, so just go slow, slow and steady, and it'll stop and you have extra string out here because that's what we're gonna need to sew in at the end. So we're just gonna go back in and we're gonna make sure that we're coming out that stitch right there. I'm good. I'm gonna pull this out. And you're just gonna go back and forth all the way around. So you're just paying attention to where you're going in on either side, and I'm gonna go around a stitch and I'm coming back in. See right there, and I'm gonna actually pull this pin out right here because I think it's just gonna get into my way. And as long as I hold the fabric down, I'm good. I'm gonna go back in right here, probably about a stitch away. Yeah, and look at that, look at that. I was right directly in the middle. And so you know how big your stitches are. We're probably gonna go around every stitch, pretty much every stitch. I came out this one, I'm gonna go into the next one right here. Look at that, it's about a stitch length away. And as long as you do this, your stitches will be even all the way around. And I'm probably gonna break this up into a time-lapse video so that you guys don't have to sit here and watch me do the whole thing because I know you're doing yours too. But so far, everything is still straight because I'm watching where I'm going in at every stitch. So just make sure you're paying attention to what you're doing and go around. When you're done with this side, take out your pins. Obviously, your pins will be out, pin the other side, and I will meet you back here at the end. Okay, so we've reached the end, and obviously it is right here that I'm able to tell that I wasn't completely straight right here with my hem, but it is okay. We're going to make it work. I'm going to go back in right here, but I'm going to be very careful. I'm way too low through the purse, so I'm going to come back up into those stitch right there. I'm going to go back in, and I think I'm good on this side of the purse. So leaving that right there, I'm now going to turn my purse back right side out. Okay. Let's get our string with the needle on it. There it is. Okay. I'm going to give this a snip. Wish I had my little snippers with me, but I don't know where they're at. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and tie this like this. I'm going to do a couple knots so that it stays nice and secure up against the thread and the yarn and the fabric. I want it to be nice and secure. And then I'm gonna take my handy dandy darning needle. I'm just gonna use the bigger one for now so I don't have to struggle with anything. And we're gonna sew in these ends. I'm gonna first bring this one over closer to this one that we started with so that we can tie it in a knot. So I'm just gonna go behind everything right there and I'm gonna come out right there. And I'm going to tie this in a quick little knot so that these two strings are together and I can hide them both together easily. There we go. I'm going to snip them so that they are the same size. And then we're going to hide these strings like we would normally, but you're doing it from the front, so you got to be really careful. So since it's white on white, we're just going to go through some stitches like this and try to hide these threads as best as possible. Trying to go through there, so I'm going through more than one string. There we go. Go around and through. Ooh, took it off my thing. And that's why we want to make sure that we leave some length on the ends of these so that we have enough to sew in these ends. That's why that is so important. I'm just going to go back down through right here. There we go. Just go back down around these. So I want to make sure this is invisible, but also really secure. There we go. I'm going to call that good. And I'm going to give this a little snip. There we go. And it's done. You now have a functionable lined purse. Wow, that's really loud. So I don't know if you guys chose to do a button or what, but I love the way I chose to do this. It is the only one I've ever done like this, and I love it. Let's check it out on. Okay, so this is what the purse is looking like on, and I am in love with this purse, okay? It is so adorable. I have never done a clasp like this before. I don't think it'll be too hard. Oh no, not at all for anybody to get open. Look at that. Look at that. It's so adorable. I think that the fabric just sets this thing off. The beads are easy to pull through and just, oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and learning how to make a pattern, or how I make my patterns at least. And you know, that crazy math in the beginning and everything. And if you've never lined a bag before, I hope that this helped you learn how to line a bag. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Remember, above all else, Jesus loves you. Bye.